The security escort was waiting at my desk at 9:17 a.m., a large man in a cheap suit with a laminated badge and the kind of round wubao that said he had done this 100 times before, escorting people out of buildings, watching them carry their lives in cardboard boxes while their coworkers pretended not to see. My desk was clean, organized, the way I always kept it, not a single personal item, not a photograph, not a plant, not a coffee mug with a funny saying, because I had learned years ago that the things you leave at work can be taken from you, and I never wanted to leave anything that could be taken. My name is Sierra Vance, I'm 32 years old, and I was fired by the CEO's son, a man named Braden Kellington III, who had been given the title of Vice President of Strategic Partnerships not because he had earned it, not because he had any experience, not because he knew the first thing about the company or its clients or its products, but because his father owned the building, the business, and the board, and Braden had grown up believing that the world owed him whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted it, and that people like me, people who worked for a living, people who had clawed their way up from nothing, were there to serve him, to obey him, to clean up his messes, and to take the blame when things went wrong. Braden had been at the company for 18 months, and in that time, he had alienated 3 of our biggest clients, lost 2 major contracts, and cost the company over $4 million in settlements and legal fees. But his father, Braden Kellington II, the founder and CEO, refused to see what was obvious to everyone else, that his son was a liability, a disaster, a ticking time bomb that would eventually destroy everything he had built. I was a senior account manager, responsible for the company's largest client, a tech conglomerate based in Singapore that accounted for nearly 40% of our annual revenue. I had spent 3 years building that relationship, flying to Singapore every 6 weeks, learning the client's culture, their needs, their priorities. I had earned their trust, their respect, their business, and I had done it without Braden's help, without his input, without his interference, until the day he decided to interfere. Before I tell you what happened next, before I tell you about the investor who walked out with me, about the deal that changed everything, about the moment Braden realized that he had fired the wrong person, I need you to do something. Hit like if you've ever been underestimated because of who you work for. Subscribe if you believe that talent always rises, and drop a comment with your location and local time. I want to know where the fighters are watching from tonight. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the company, to the deal, to the moment that Braden Kellington III decided that I was his enemy. Kellington Industries was a mid-sized tech firm based in Austin, Texas, specializing in cybersecurity software. The company had been founded 25 years ago by Braden Kellington II, a self-made man who had started the business in his garage with nothing but a laptop and a dream. He had built it into a successful enterprise, with over 500 employees and annual revenues exceeding $300 million. He was respected, admired, feared, and he was blind, completely and utterly blind, when it came to his son. I had been at Kellington for 6 years, hired fresh out of business school, promoted 4 times, given raises and bonuses and awards. I had worked my way up from junior account coordinator to senior account manager, had built a reputation as the person you went to when you needed something done right, when you needed a problem solved, when you needed a client handled with care. I loved my job, not because I was loyal to the company, not because I believed in the mission, but because I was good at it, because it gave me purpose, because it allowed me to provide for my mother, who had sacrificed everything so that I could go to college, so that I could escape the cycle of poverty that had trapped our family for generations. My mother had worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, to put me through school. She had cleaned houses, waited tables, stocked shelves at the grocery store. She had come home exhausted every night, her hands cracked and bleeding, her feet swollen, her eyes tired, but she had never complained, never asked for anything, never made me feel like a burden. "You're going to be someone, Sierra," she used to say. "You're going to do something with your life, something important, something that matters, and I'm going to be so proud of you." I wanted to make her proud, wanted to prove that her sacrifices had been worth it, wanted to build a life that would honor everything she had given up for me, and Kellington Industries was supposed to be part of that, a stepping stone, a platform, a place where I could learn, grow, and eventually move on to something bigger, something better, something that was mine. Braden Kellington III joined the company in January, 2 years ago. He was 29 years old, fresh from a failed startup that had burned through $10 million of his father's money before imploding in a spectacular mess of lawsuits and recriminations. He was handsome, in the way that wealthy people are handsome, with expensive clothes and expensive hair and expensive teeth. But there was something hollow about him, something empty, something that no amount of money could fill. From the beginning, he made it clear that he did not respect me, did not value me, did not see me as anything more than a tool to be used and discarded. He called me by the wrong name, repeatedly, even after I corrected him. He dismissed my ideas in meetings, only to present them as his own later. He took credit for my work, my successes, my relationships, and when things went wrong, he blamed me. Sierra, right? Yes, Sierra, listen, I need you to reach out to the Singapore client and tell them that we're going to need to renegotiate the terms of the contract. We're leaving money on the table, and I don't like leaving money on the table. Braden, that contract was negotiated over 18 months. It's locked in for another 2 years. We can't just renegotiate because you feel like it. They're illegal. I don't care about the legalities, Sierra. I care about the bottom line, and the bottom line says we're getting screwed, so fix it. I can't fix it, Braden. It's a legally binding agreement, signed by both parties. If we try to renegotiate now, we'll lose the client, and that client represents 40% of our revenue. Then you're not doing your job, Sierra. Maybe I need to find someone who can. He walked away, and I stood there in the hallway, my hands shaking, my heart pounding, wondering how I was going to survive 18 more months of this man, this child, this entitled, arrogant, incompetent fool who had been given everything and earned nothing. The Singapore client was called Nexus Global, a $50 billion tech conglomerate with operations in 12 countries. The person I dealt with directly was a woman named Mei Lin, the chief technology officer, a brilliant, demanding, no-nonsense executive who had no patience for incompetence and no tolerance for bullshit. Mei and I had developed a relationship over the years, built on trust, on respect, on the understanding that I would always tell her the truth, even when the truth was hard, even when the truth was inconvenient, even when the truth cost me something. She knew that I was the one who made things happen, who solved problems, who ensured that Kellington delivered on its promises, and she had told me, more than once, that if I ever left Kellington, she would follow me wherever I went. You're the best account manager I've ever worked with, Sierra, and I've worked with a lot of them. You understand our business, our culture, our needs, and you're not afraid to tell me when I'm wrong. That's rare, that's valuable, and that's why I trust you. I appreciate that. May, I really do. I've enjoyed working with you, and I hope to continue working with you for a long time. So do I, but I know how these things go. Companies change, people change, circumstances change, and if you ever decide to leave Kellington, you let me know. I'll make sure you land on your feet. I didn't think much of it at the time, just the casual conversation of a satisfied client. But later, when everything fell apart, when Braden fired me, when I walked out of that building with nothing but my dignity and my phone, I remembered her words, and I knew what I had to do. The final straw came in October, 3 months after Braden had tried to force me to renegotiate the Nexus contract. The client had agreed to an expansion, a new project that would generate an additional $50 million in revenue over the next 2 years. I had worked for weeks on the proposal, had flown to Singapore twice, had presented to May's team, had answered every question, addressed every concern, and had finally, after a grueling negotiation, secured the deal. Braden was furious, not because the deal was bad, but because I had succeeded without him, because I had proven that I didn't need his help, because I had demonstrated that I was more valuable, more capable, more competent than he would ever be. You went behind my back, Sierra. You negotiated this deal without my input, without my approval, without keeping me in the loop. I kept you in the loop, Braden. I sent you emails, I left you voicemails, I stopped by your office half a dozen times. You were too busy to respond, so I moved forward because the client was on a deadline, and I wasn't going to lose a $50 million deal because you couldn't be bothered to return my calls. You're insubordinate, Sierra. You're a liability, and I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. You're fired. Pack your things. Security will escort you out. I looked at him. This man, this child, this entitled, arrogant, incompetent fool who had been given everything and earned nothing, and I felt something I hadn't expected. Not anger, not fear, not sadness, but relief, the same relief you feel when you finally stop pretending that something broken can be fixed. Fine, Braden, fire me, but remember this moment. Remember it well, because you're not just firing an employee, You're firing the only person who could keep your biggest client happy, and when they leave, and they will leave, you'll have no one to blame but yourself." I walked out of his office, collected my things, and let security escort me to the door. The parking lot was hot, the way Texas parking lots are hot in October, the sun beating down on the asphalt, the heat rising in waves, the air thick and heavy. I sat in my car, a modest Honda Civic that had seen better days, and I stared at the building I had just been escorted out of, the building where I had spent 6 years of my life, the building where I had built relationships, closed deals, earned respect, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not relief, just a vast empty exhaustion that settled into my bones like concrete. I called my mother first, because she was the only person who would understand, who wouldn't judge, who would tell me the truth, even when the truth hurt. "Mom, I got fired." "What, baby? What happened? I thought everything was going well. I thought you just closed that big deal." "I did, Mom. I closed the deal, but the CEO's son didn't like that I did it without him. So he fired me, said I was insubordinate, said I was a liability, said I was done." "That man is a fool, Sierra. A complete and utter fool. He doesn't know what he's lost. He doesn't know what you're worth, and one day, he's going to regret this, mark my words. He's going to regret this." "I don't know if he will, Mom. He's never regretted anything in his life. Why would he start now?" "Because you're special, Sierra. You're talented, you're hardworking, you're everything he's not, and the world has a way of rewarding people like you and punishing people like him. Just wait, just be patient, just trust that things will work out." I wanted to believe her, wanted to trust that she was right, wanted to let go of the fear that was gripping my heart, but the fear was persistent, tenacious, a weed that kept growing back no matter how many times I pulled it out. I had no job, no income, no prospects, and a mother who was counting on me to provide for her, to take care of her, to be the daughter she had sacrificed everything for. The second call I made was to Mei Lin, the client in Singapore, the woman who had promised to help me land on my feet if I ever left Kellington. I didn't know if she would remember, didn't know if she would keep her word, didn't know if she would even take my call, but I had nothing to lose and everything to gain. "May, it's Sierra Vance. I hope I'm not interrupting." "Sierra, of course not. It's good to hear from you. How are you? How's the family?" "I'm okay, May, but I have some news. I was fired today by the CEO's son, Braden. He said I was insubordinate. He said I was a liability. He said I was done." There was a pause on the line, a long pause, the kind of pause that makes you hold your breath, that makes your heart pound, that makes you wonder if you've made a terrible mistake. "I'm sorry to hear that, Sierra, but I can't say I'm surprised. I've heard things about Braden, about the way he treats people, about the way he runs the business. It's only a matter of time before he destroys everything his father built." "I know, May, I know. And that's why I'm calling. You told me once a while back that if I ever left Kellington, you'd make sure I landed on my feet. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you meant it, but I'm calling to ask if that offer still stands." "It still stands, Sierra. In fact, I was going to call you next week. We're looking to expand our operations, and we need someone to lead the initiative. Someone with your skills, your experience, your relationships, someone we can trust. I was going to offer you a job, but I wasn't sure if you'd take it. I wasn't sure if you were ready to leave Kellington." "I'm ready, May, more than ready. I've been ready for a long time. I just didn't know it until today." We talked for an hour, May and I, about the new role, about the responsibilities, about the compensation, about the timeline. She offered me a position as Vice President of Global Partnerships, with a salary that was double what I had been making at Kellington, plus bonuses, plus stock options, plus a relocation package that would cover my move to Singapore. "This is incredible. May, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to thank me, Sierra. You've earned this. You've proven yourself. You've shown me that you're trustworthy, that you're capable, that you're the kind of person I want on my team. And I'm not just offering you a job. I'm offering you a partnership, a collaboration, a chance to build something new, something better, something that's ours." "I accept, May. I accept. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll move wherever you need me. I'll work whatever hours you require. I'll prove that you made the right choice, I promise." "I know you will, Sierra. I've never doubted you. Not for a moment, and I'm not going to start now." I hung up the phone, sat in the silence of my car, and cried, not tears of sadness, not tears of fear, but tears of relief, of gratitude, of joy. I had been fired, humiliated, discarded. And yet, somehow, miraculously, I had landed on my feet, better than before, stronger than before, more successful than before. The next few weeks were a blur of packing, planning, and preparing. I gave notice on my apartment, sold my furniture, arranged for storage, booked a flight to Singapore, said goodbye to my mother, who cried and hugged me and told me she was proud of me, and then, finally, I was on a plane, flying across the ocean, toward a new life, a new future, a new beginning. May had arranged for a car to pick me up at the airport, a driver holding a sign with my name, a black Mercedes with leather seats and tinted windows. I felt like a fraud, like an imposter, like someone who had stumbled into a life she didn't deserve, but I pushed those feelings aside, reminded myself that I had earned this, that I had worked for this, that I was worthy of this. The office was in a gleaming skyscraper in the financial district, with floor-to-ceiling windows and marble floors and the kind of quiet efficiency that spoke of power and money and influence. May met me in the lobby, her smile warm, her handshake firm, her eyes bright. "Welcome to Singapore, Sierra. I'm so glad you're here." "Thank you, May. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to get started. I'm ready to work." "I know you are, and that's why I hired you. Come on, let me show you around, introduce you to the team, and then we can talk about the project." The project was massive, a $1.5 billion investment in a new cybersecurity initiative that would partner with governments and corporations around the world to protect critical infrastructure from cyber threats. It was the kind of project that could change the world, the kind of project that could define a career, the kind of project that could make or break everyone involved. This is incredible. May, this is the kind of thing I've dreamed about, the kind of thing I've worked toward my whole career. It's the kind of thing you were born to do, Sierra, and I'm going to give you the resources, the support, the freedom to make it happen, but I need you to understand something. This is not going to be easy. There are going to be challenges, setbacks, obstacles, and there are going to be people who try to stop us, people who are threatened by what we're doing, people who will do anything to protect their own interests. I understand, May. I've dealt with people like that before. I've dealt with Braden, with his father, with the whole Kellington machine. I know how to handle them, I know how to fight back, and I know how to win. I'm counting on it, Sierra. I'm counting on you. The first few months were a whirlwind of meetings, presentations, negotiations, and deadlines. I worked around the clock, 12 hours a day, sometimes more, building relationships with potential partners, securing commitments from investors, navigating the complex regulatory landscape that governed international cybersecurity. May was a demanding boss, exacting, precise, intolerant of excuses, but she was also fair, supportive, and generous with her praise when I delivered. She gave me the autonomy to make decisions, the authority to speak on her behalf, the resources to hire a team of my own, and I built a group of talented, dedicated, passionate people who shared my vision, my drive, my commitment to excellence. We were making progress, real progress, the kind of progress that attracted attention, the kind of attention that made people nervous, the kind of nervousness that led to phone calls, emails, and, eventually, a visit from someone I never expected to see again. Braden Kellington III walked into my office on a Tuesday afternoon, unannounced, uninvited, unwelcome. He looked the same as he had the day he fired me. Expensive suit, expensive hair, expensive arrogance, but there was something different about him, something nervous, something desperate, something that looked like fear. "Sierra, I need to talk to you." "Braden, you're not supposed to be here. You're not welcome here, and I have nothing to say to you." I know, but I need your help. The company is in trouble, my father is in trouble, and you're the only one who can fix it." "I'm sorry to hear that, Braden, but I'm not your employee anymore. I'm not your partner. I'm not your friend, and I'm not going to help you clean up a mess that you created. You fired me, remember. You called me insubordinate. You called me a liability. You had security escort me out of the building, and now you want my help? No, Braden, no. Please, Sierra, I'm begging you. The Nexus deal is falling apart. May is pulling out. She's taking her investment elsewhere, and if she goes, the company goes with her. My father will lose everything, the business, the house, his retirement, everything he spent his life building. That's not my problem, Braden. That's your problem. You did this, you and your arrogance, your incompetence, your refusal to listen to the people who knew better. You reap what you sow, Braden, and it's time for you to reap. I watched Braden walk out of my office, his shoulders slumped, his head bowed, his expensive shoes dragging on the marble floor, and I felt nothing. Not pity, not satisfaction, not even the faintest flicker of the anger that had consumed me for so long. He was a stranger now, a ghost from a past life, a reminder of everything I had survived and everything I had become. May appeared in my doorway a few minutes later, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. She had seen Braden leave, had probably heard the whole conversation through the thin walls of the executive suite, and she was waiting, patiently, for me to explain. That was Braden Kellington, wasn't it? The one who fired you? Yes, that was him. He came to ask for help, said the company was in trouble, said his father was in trouble, said I was the only one who could fix it. And what did you tell him? I told him no, I told him it wasn't my problem. I told him he created this mess and he could clean it up himself. Good. That's the right answer. He doesn't deserve your help. He doesn't deserve your sympathy, and he certainly doesn't deserve your forgiveness. I don't know if I've forgiven him, May. I don't know if I ever will, but I know that I'm not going to let him drag me back into his drama. I'm not going to let him take anything else from me. I've moved on. I've built a new life, and I'm not going to let him destroy it. May nodded, her expression softening, her voice gentling. I'm proud of you, Sierra, for standing up for yourself, for setting boundaries, for refusing to be used. It takes strength to say no to someone who has hurt you, especially when they're begging for your help. It's not strength, May, it's survival. I've spent my whole life learning how to survive, how to protect myself, how to keep going when everything falls apart, and I'm not going to let Braden Kellington undo all of that because he's finally facing the consequences of his own choices. The weeks that followed were busy, productive, fulfilling. The $1.5 billion project was moving forward, partners were signing on, investors were committing, governments were approving, and I was at the center of it all, leading the charge, making the deals, proving that I was more than the woman who had been fired by the CEO's son. May gave me more responsibility, more authority, more visibility. She introduced me to the board, to the investors, to the partners. She let me present at conferences, speak at panels, represent the company in the media, and I thrived, basking in the recognition, the respect, the validation that had been denied to me for so long. You're a natural, Sierra. You were born for this. You have a gift for connecting with people, for understanding what they need, for persuading them to see things your way. It's not a gift, May. It's a skill, something I learned, something I practiced, something I worked hard to develop. I spent years learning how to read people, how to anticipate their objections, how to address their concerns, and it's paying off now, finally, after all this time. Your former employer must be kicking himself, letting you go, losing you to a competitor, watching you succeed without him. I don't know if he's kicking himself, May. I don't know if he's capable of that kind of self-reflection, but I know that I'm grateful. Grateful that he fired me, grateful that I ended up here, grateful that I have the chance to do something meaningful, something important, something that matters. The news of my success reached Austin eventually, through the grapevine, through former colleagues who had kept in touch, through the industry press that covered the deal. Braden's father, the CEO, called me himself a few months after Braden's visit. His voice was tired, weary, the voice of a man who had spent his whole life building something and was watching it crumble before his eyes. Sierra, it's Braden Kellington too. I hope you don't mind me calling. Mr. Kellington, it's good to hear from you. It's been a while. Too long, Sierra, too long. I've been meaning to reach out, to apologize, to tell you that I should have handled things differently, that I should have listened to you, that I should have protected you from my son. You should have, Mr. Kellington, but you didn't, and that's not something you can undo with a phone call, no matter how sincere. I know, Sierra, I know, and I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I'm not asking for your help. I'm just asking for a chance to explain, to tell you my side of the story, to let you know that I'm not the monster you think I am. I don't think you're a monster, Mr. Kellington. I think you're a father who loved his son too much to see him clearly, and I think that love cost you more than you ever imagined. We talked for an hour, the old man and me, about the company, about the business, about the mistakes he had made, the regrets he carried, the fears that kept him up at night. He told me about Braden's childhood, his struggles, his failures, his desperate need for approval. He told me about his own childhood, his own struggles, his own desperate need to prove that he was worthy of the success he had achieved. I spoiled him, Sierra. I know that now. I gave him everything, and he learned nothing. He never had to work for anything, never had to earn anything, never had to face the consequences of his actions, and now it's too late. He's too old to change, too set in his ways, too convinced that the world owes him something. It's not too late, Mr. Kellington. People can change if they want it, if they're willing to do the work, if they're willing to admit that they were wrong, but Braden has to want it, he has to choose it. You can't do it for him. I know, Sierra, I know, but I don't know if he'll ever get there. I don't know if he's capable of getting there, and I'm running out of time. I'm not getting any younger, and the company is not getting any healthier. What's happening with the company, Mr. Kellington? What's the situation? It's not good, Sierra. It's not good at all. We've lost 3 more clients since you left. We're hemorrhaging money, and the board is talking about replacing me, about bringing in new leadership, about selling the company to the highest bidder. I built this company from nothing, Sierra, and I'm watching it die, and I don't know how to save it. I felt something then, something I hadn't expected, something that surprised me, something that made me uncomfortable. Pity. Not for Braden, not for the son who had wronged me, but for the father, the old man, the builder, the dreamer, who had watched his life's work crumble because he loved his son too much to see the truth. I can't help you, Mr. Kellington. I can't save your company. I can't fix the problems that your son created, but I can give you some advice, if you're willing to hear it. I'm willing, Sierra. I'm willing to hear anything you have to say. Fire your son, Mr. Kellington, not because you don't love him, but because you do. Fire him. Send him away. Make him stand on his own 2 feet. Make him earn his own way. Make him face the consequences of his choices. It's the only way he'll ever learn, the only way he'll ever grow, the only way he'll ever become the man you want him to be. He was quiet for a long time, so long that I thought he had hung up, but then I heard his voice, soft, broken, barely a whisper. I don't know if I can do that, Sierra. I don't know if I have the strength. Then you'll lose everything, Mr. Kellington, the company, your legacy, your son, everything you spent your life building because you were too weak to do the hard thing, the right thing, the necessary thing. I hung up the phone, sat in the silence of my office, and thought about the choices we make, the ones that define us, the ones that haunt us, the ones that set us free. I had made my choice when I walked out of that building, when I took May's offer, when I built a new life in a new country. I had chosen myself, my future, my happiness, and I had no regrets. Braden Kellington III was fired by his father 3 weeks later. I heard about it through the grapevine, through former colleagues who had kept in touch, through the industry press that covered the story. It was front-page news in the tech world. The son of the founder, ousted, humiliated, sent packing, with nothing but a severance package and a reputation that would follow him wherever he went. Did you see the news, Sierra, about Braden? I did, May. It's about time. His father should have done it years ago. Do you think he'll change? Do you think he'll learn from this? Do you think he'll become a better person? I don't know, May. I hope so, for his sake, for his father's sake, but I don't think it matters. Not to me. Not anymore. He's part of my past, not my present, not my future, and I'm not going to waste any more time thinking about him. That's the right attitude, Sierra. That's the attitude of someone who has moved on, someone who is focused on the future, someone who is building something new. The $1.5 billion project was completed on time and under budget. 18 months after I had started, the partnership was launched, the investment was deployed, the governments and corporations were satisfied, and I was hailed as a hero, a visionary, a leader who had delivered on her promises. May threw a party to celebrate, a lavish affair at a hotel in Singapore, with champagne and caviar and a guest list that included the most powerful people in the tech world. I stood in the corner, watching the crowd, feeling the weight of my success, and I thought about my mother, about her sacrifices, about her struggles, about the pride she would feel if she could see me now. You did it, Sierra. You actually did it. We did it, May. I couldn't have done it without you, without your support, your guidance, your faith in me. You could have, Sierra. You would have, because you're that kind of person, the kind who doesn't give up, who doesn't quit, who doesn't let anyone stand in her way, and I'm proud to have played a small part in your journey. It wasn't a small part, May, it was everything. You gave me a chance when no one else would. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and I will never forget that. Never. The success of the project made me wealthy, not just comfortable, not just secure, but wealthy, the kind of wealthy that meant I never had to worry about money again, the kind of wealthy that meant I could buy my mother a house, a nice one with a garden and a porch and a kitchen where she could cook the meals she had always wanted to cook, the kind of wealthy that meant I could finally, after all these years, breathe. I bought my mother a house in Austin, not far from where she had lived her whole life, but far enough from the apartment where she had struggled, where she had sacrificed, where she had given everything so that I could have something. I flew her out to Singapore to see it, to sign the papers, to pick out the furniture, to make it hers. I can't believe this, Sierra. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe this is mine. It's yours, Mom. All yours, you deserve it. You've earned it. You gave up everything for me, and now it's my turn to give something back. I didn't do it so you would give something back. I did it because I love you, because I wanted you to have a better life, because I believed in you. I know, Mom, I know, and that's why I wanted to do this. Not because I owe you, but because I love you, because I want you to be happy, because I want you to know that your sacrifices weren't in vain, that they mattered, that they made a difference. She cried, of course, and I cried, and we held each other. Two women who had fought so hard for so long, finally able to rest, finally able to celebrate, finally able to enjoy the fruits of our labor. The tech world continued to buzz about the project, about the partnership, about the investment, and about me. I was featured in magazines, interviewed on podcasts, invited to speak at conferences. I became a symbol, a success story, a testament to the power of resilience, determination, and hard work. But I never forgot where I came from, never forgot the people who had helped me along the way, never forgot the lessons I had learned from my mother, from May, from the struggles that had shaped me. I used my platform to advocate for others, to speak up for those who couldn't speak for themselves, to mentor young professionals who were facing the same obstacles I had faced. You're an inspiration, Sierra. You're proof that it's possible to overcome anything, to achieve anything, to be anything. I'm not an inspiration. I'm just someone who refused to give up. Someone who was lucky enough to have people who believed in me, someone who worked hard and stayed focused and never lost sight of what mattered. That's exactly what makes you an inspiration, Sierra. That's exactly what makes people look up to you, listen to you, follow you. I didn't know if that was true, didn't know if I deserved the attention, the praise, the adulation, but I accepted it gracefully, humbly, gratefully, knowing that it was not just for me, but for everyone who had helped me get here, everyone who had believed in me, everyone who had sacrificed for me. Braden Kellington III did not disappear, not completely, not the way I had hoped. He resurfaced a few years later, as people like him always do, with a new venture, a new company, a new opportunity to prove that he was not the failure everyone thought he was. He had learned nothing, or maybe he had learned the wrong lessons, that the world owed him another chance, that he was entitled to success, that the rules did not apply to him. He reached out to me through email, through LinkedIn, through mutual acquaintances, asking for a meeting, asking for advice, asking for a second chance. I ignored him, deleted his messages, blocked his calls, refused to engage. I had nothing to say to him, nothing to give him, nothing to offer. You're being harsh, Sierra. Maybe you should hear him out. Maybe he's changed. Maybe he's learned. People like Braden don't change, May. They don't learn, they don't grow. They just find new ways to manipulate, new people to use, new opportunities to destroy, and I'm not going to let him anywhere near me, or my work, or my life. You're afraid of him, aren't you? Afraid of what he might do, afraid of what he might take. I'm not afraid of him, May. I'm tired of him. Tired of his drama, his entitlement, his refusal to accept responsibility for his own choices. I've moved on, and I'm not going back, not for him, not for anyone. My mother's health began to decline when I was 35. The years of hard work, of sacrifice, of putting everyone else's needs before her own had taken their toll. Her body was tired, her heart was weak, her spirit was fading. I flew back to Austin as often as I could, sometimes once a month, sometimes more, to sit with her, to talk with her, to hold her hand. I'm not afraid to die, Sierra. I've lived a good life, a full life, a life that mattered, and I'm proud of what I've done, proud of who I've become, proud of you. You're not going to die, Mom. Not yet, not for a long time. You still have so much to do, so much to see, so much to experience. We don't get to choose when we go, Sierra. We only get to choose how we live, and I've chosen to live with love, with gratitude, with hope, and I hope you'll do the same. I will, Mom. I promise. I'll live with love, with gratitude, with hope, and I'll make you proud, every day, for the rest of my life. You already have, Sierra. You already have. She died on a Sunday, in her sleep, peacefully, the way she had lived, quietly, without fuss, without drama. I was holding her hand when she took her last breath, her fingers warm in mine, her face peaceful, her eyes closed. I didn't cry, not then, not at the funeral, not in the days that followed. I was numb, hollow, emptied of emotion. The grief would come, I knew. The grief would come when I least expected it, when I was cooking dinner, when I was walking down the street, when I was lying in bed at night, listening to the silence, and I would let it come. I would let it wash over me. I would let it take me where it needed to take me, because grief was not the enemy. Grief was the price of love, and I had loved her more than anyone, more than anything, more than myself. May came to the funeral, flew all the way from Singapore to pay her respects. She stood beside me at the grave, her hand on my shoulder, her voice soft, her eyes kind. She was a remarkable woman, Sierra. She raised a remarkable daughter, and her legacy will live on in you, in everything you do, in everyone you touch. I don't know how to do this without her. May, I don't know how to live in a world where she doesn't exist. You'll learn, Sierra. You'll learn to carry her with you in your heart, in your memories, in the lessons she taught you, and you'll keep going because that's what she would want. That's what she raised you to do. I threw myself back into work, harder than before, longer hours, more responsibilities, more projects, more travel, anything to distract myself from the emptiness, the loneliness, the grief that threatened to consume me. May watched me, worried, concerned. She had seen this before. The workaholic, the overachiever, the person who tried to fill the void with productivity, with success, with the approval of others, and she knew that it wouldn't work, that it couldn't work, that it would only make things worse. You need to slow down, Sierra. You need to take care of yourself. You need to give yourself time to grieve. I don't have time to grieve, May. I have work to do, deals to close, people to lead. I can't afford to fall apart. Not now, not ever. You're not falling apart, Sierra. You're healing, and healing takes time, it takes patience, it takes kindness, and you're not giving yourself any of those things. I don't know how, May. I don't know how to be kind to myself. I don't know how to be patient. I don't know how to let go. Then let me help you. Let me be your friend, your confidant, your guide. Let me show you that you don't have to do this alone. I started seeing a therapist, a woman named Dr. Sarah Chin, who specialized in grief and trauma. She helped me untangle the knots in my heart, helped me see that I was not responsible for my mother's death, that I had done everything I could, that I was allowed to be sad, to be angry, to be lost. You've spent your whole life being strong, Sierra, being the one who holds everything together, being the one who never breaks, but you're human, and humans break, and that's okay. That's normal, that's healthy. I don't know how to break, Dr. Chin. I don't know how to let go. I don't know how to be weak. You don't have to be weak, Sierra. You just have to be honest. Honest with yourself, honest with others, honest about what you're feeling, what you're needing, what you're afraid of. I'm afraid of being alone, Dr. Chin. I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of losing everything I've worked for. Those are normal fears, Sierra, human fears, and they don't make you weak. They make you real. They make you alive. They make you you. The years passed slowly, then quickly, the way time does when you're paying attention and not paying attention, when you're busy living and not just surviving. I built a life in Singapore, a life that was full, a life that was rich, a life that was mine. I made friends, fell in love, got married, had a child, a daughter whom I named after my mother. Rosa had my mother's eyes, brown and warm and full of wisdom, and she had my mother's spirit, fierce and stubborn and unbreakable. I looked at her sometimes, and I saw my mother's face, heard my mother's voice, felt my mother's love, and I knew that she was still with me, that she would always be with me, that death could not separate us. Tell me about Grandma, Mommy. Tell me about the woman I was named after. She was the strongest person I ever knew, Rosa. She worked hard, sacrificed everything, and never complained, not once. She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and she taught me that love is the most important thing in the world, more important than money, more important than success, more important than anything. I wish I could have met her. You did, baby. You did. She's in you. In your eyes, in your heart, in your spirit, and she always will be. I never went back to Austin. Not to live, not to work, not to stay. I visited sometimes for holidays, for funerals, for the occasional business meeting, but my home was in Singapore now, with May, with my team, with the life I had built from the ashes of the one that had been taken from me. Braden Kellington III continued to fail upward, as people like him always do. He started a new company, ran it into the ground, blamed everyone but himself, and moved on to the next opportunity, the next mark, the next victim. His father died a few years after I left, alone, in a nursing home, forgotten by the son he had sacrificed everything for. I read about it in the paper, a small obituary, buried in the back pages. Braden Kellington II, founder of Kellington Industries, died yesterday at the age of 72. He is survived by his son, Braden Kellington III, and his sister, Margaret Kellington. No services will be held. I felt something then, something I hadn't expected, something that surprised me, something that made me uncomfortable. Pity, not for Braden, not for the son who had wronged me, but for the father, the old man, the builder, the dreamer, who had died alone, forgotten, unmourned, because he had loved his son too much to see the truth. Are you okay, Sierra? You look like you've seen a ghost. I'm okay, May. I just read that Mr. Kellington died, the founder of my old company, the father of the man who fired me. How do you feel about that? I don't know. Sad, I guess. Sad that he died alone. Sad that his son wasn't there. Sad that he spent his whole life building something that crumbled to nothing. That's not your fault, Sierra. That's not your burden to carry. You did what you had to do. You survived. You thrived. You built something new, and you should be proud of that, not guilty. I'm not guilty, May. I'm just reflective, I guess, thinking about the choices we make, the paths we take, the people we become, and wondering if I could have done something different, something better, something that would have changed the outcome. You couldn't have, Sierra. You did everything you could. You were professional. You were ethical. You were kind, and you were betrayed. That's not on you. That's on them, and you don't have to carry that weight anymore. I thought about Mr. Kellington sometimes, in the quiet moments when I was alone, when I was reflecting, when I was wondering what might have been. I thought about the man he could have been, the father he should have been, the leader he might have become if he had been willing to see the truth, to make the hard choices, to do the right thing. But I also thought about the man I had become, the woman I was now, the mother, the leader, the friend, the daughter, the survivor. I had not let my past define me, had not let the people who had wronged me control me, had not let the pain and the betrayal and the loss destroy me. I had risen like a phoenix from the ashes, and I was flying. You're a remarkable woman, Sierra. You've overcome so much, achieved so much, become so much, and I'm honored to know you, to work with you, to call you my friend. I couldn't have done it without you, May. Without your support, your guidance, your faith in me. You gave me a chance when no one else would, and I will never forget that, never. You would have found a way, Sierra. You're that kind of person, the kind who doesn't give up, who doesn't quit, who doesn't let anyone stand in her way, and I'm just grateful that I got to be a small part of your journey. Rosa grew, from a baby to a toddler, from a toddler to a child, from a child to a teenager. She was smart and funny and stubborn, with a will of iron and a heart of gold. She asked questions about my past, about my parents, about the grandmother she had never met, and I answered them. Honestly, gently, the way my mother had answered my questions, the way my grandmother had answered hers. Mommy, why don't we ever visit Grandpa? Why don't we ever see him? Because Grandpa made some bad choices, baby. Choices that hurt me, choices that I couldn't accept, and sometimes, when people make choices that hurt us, we have to protect ourselves, even if it means staying away. Do you miss him? Sometimes, baby, sometimes I miss the idea of him, the father I wished he could have been, the father I deserved, but I don't miss the man he was, the man who let me down, the man who chose his pride over his daughter. Do you think he misses you? I don't know, baby. I don't know if he's capable of missing anyone, but I hope he does. I hope he thinks about me sometimes. I hope he regrets the choices he made. I hope he wishes he could go back and do things differently. Braden Kellington III reached out to me one last time, when Rosa was 10, through a mutual acquaintance, asking for a meeting, asking for a second chance, asking for forgiveness. He had lost everything, his company, his money, his reputation, his father, and he was desperate. grasping, searching for someone to blame, someone to save him, someone to make it all better. I refused, not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. I had worked too hard, sacrificed too much, come too far to let him drag me back into his drama, his chaos, his destruction. I had a daughter to raise, a company to run, a life to live, and I was not going to let Braden Kellington III take any of that away from me. You're making the right choice, Sierra. He doesn't deserve your time, your energy, your attention. I know, May, I know, but I still feel something, not guilt, not pity, but something, I don't know, a sense of closure. Maybe a sense that I finally, after all these years, let him go. That's growth, Sierra. That's healing. That's freedom. You've let go of the weight you've been carrying, the anger, the resentment, the fear, and you're finally free. I don't know if I'm free, May, but I'm lighter. I'm stronger. I'm more at peace. And that's enough. That's more than enough. I never saw Braden again. Never heard from him again. Never read about him in the papers again. He disappeared, as people like him often do, into the background, into the noise, into the oblivion of the forgotten, and I didn't think about him. Not often, not anymore. He was a ghost, a memory, a reminder of a life I had left behind. My mother's house in Austin, the one I had bought her, the one with the garden and the porch and the kitchen where she had cooked the meals she had always wanted to cook, I kept it, maintained it, visited it sometimes when I was in the States, when I needed to feel close to her, when I needed to remember where I came from. Do you ever think about moving back, Sierra, about living in Austin again? Sometimes, May, sometimes I think about it, but then I remember what happened, what I went through, what I overcame, and I realize that I'm not the same person I was when I left. I've grown, I've changed, I've become someone new, and that someone belongs here, with you, with the team, with the life I've built. I'm glad, Sierra. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're part of our lives. I'm glad you're part of our family. I'm glad too, May, I'm glad too. The tech world continued to evolve, to change, to grow. New companies emerged, new leaders rose, new innovations transformed the way we lived and worked and communicated, but I stayed focused, stayed grounded, stayed true to the values that had guided me from the beginning: integrity, excellence, compassion. I mentored young professionals, the ones who reminded me of myself, the ones who were struggling, the ones who were fighting, the ones who were determined to succeed against all odds. I told them my story, not all of it, not the darkest parts, but enough to let them know that I understood, that I had been there, that survival was possible. How did you do it, Sierra? How did you overcome everything? How did you keep going when everyone was telling you to give up? I had people who believed in me, people who supported me, people who refused to let me fail. My mother, my grandmother, May, they were my anchors, my lifelines, my reasons to keep fighting. What about the people who hurt you, the ones who betrayed you, the ones who tried to destroy you? How did you deal with them? I let them go. I stopped carrying their weight. I stopped letting their cruelty define me. I forgave them, not because they deserved it, but because I deserved peace. Here's what I want you to know. If you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, the one who was underestimated, the one who was dismissed, the one who was told you weren't enough, the one who was fired by someone who had never earned anything in his life, hear me. You're not what they said you were. You're not the failure, the disappointment, the liability. You're the one who survived, the one who kept going, the one who found a way to rise. Not in spite of the obstacles, but because of them. And survival is not pretty, it's not clean, it's not a movie where the credits roll and everyone lives happily ever after. Survival is messy. It's courtrooms and lawyers and sleepless nights. It's years of therapy and healing and learning to trust again. It's forgiving yourself for not being perfect, for not being strong enough, for not being fast enough, for not being enough. It's planting roses in a garden and waiting for them to bloom. It's sitting on a porch and watching the stars and letting go of the weight you've been carrying your whole life. But survival is also yours. No one can take it from you. Not the CEO's son who fired you, not the company that discarded you, not the world that didn't see you survived, and that is the only victory that matters. I forgave Braden Kellington III, not because he deserved it, not because I had forgotten, but because I was tired of carrying his weight, tired of being defined by his cruelty, tired of letting his failure to see my worth shape my life. Forgiveness was not for him. It was for me. It was the key that unlocked the door I had been trapped behind. The door that led to the garden, the ocean, the future. My name is Sierra Vance. I'm 42 years old. I live in Singapore. I have a daughter who is my mother's eyes, a friend who believed in me when no one else would, a career that I built from nothing, and a life that is mine. Not perfect, not easy, but mine. The CEO's son fired me, but I walked out with the $1.5 billion investor, and I never looked back. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, told you weren't enough, leave a comment. Tell me, what did you survive? Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.